Okay, so it's Monday, June 8th, and me and Alicia are headed back to Pasadena. But I did want to give a tutorial on what we have done here. I want to give an overview of the engine, the sensors that we have on it. I want to talk about our very expensive high-tech device to read the OBD1 codes. I want to say something about the Galaxy tablet and how to operate it, and I also want to say something about the ALD Droid application. And so we're going to do a quick tutorial of how to check for codes, how to see how the engines are running, and just an overview of what we've done here. Okay, this is the heart of the engine, the ECM. If this was a Honda engine, it would be called the ECU, but it's a Chevy engine, so we call it ECM in the United States. I'm not really sure why. So the ECM controls the timing of the engine, and over here against the back wall, again, this is the starboard engine. We have the fuel filter, we have the lift pump here, which is a Carter pump, which is actually now marine approved, and we have the high pressure fuel pump attached to the low lift pump. Strictly, there should be a micron filter in here. We had to remove it because the surveyor said it was a single barbed, and he wanted multi-barb threads on all these connections. So eventually we do need to put a micron filter here because the surface area of this high pressure fuel pump is relatively small compared to the surface area here, and we really need clean fuel running through the system. So we need to find a micron filter with multi-barb threads. All these threads here are now multi-barb. The inspector had an issue with the single barb threads, so we got rid of them all. He does also had issue with the Teflon tape we were using. So we can no longer use Teflon tape for fuel lines. He wants us to use a product called Gasol. Alternatively, what we have been using is a white paint. Okay, so we replaced all the Teflon tape with this pipe thread compound, TFE paste. It's good for oil, gas, and the key for this is you got to let it cure for, I don't know, maybe 24 hours is preferable. Okay, this Christmas tree here is the temperature sensor. This is the sensor that goes to the helm of the boat. This is the sensor that goes to the ECM computer. It tells you the temperature of the engine. This is kind of long in our opinion. We need to shorten that, but we just hacked it together for what we could. These are off by about maybe 20 degrees. I believe this is accurate. This is not as accurate as this one. Over here on the engine, we have the oh, let's look over here. This is the oxygen sensor. It's mounted in a horizontal position. This is a 4-wire narrowband oxygen sensor. 2 wires are to heat the element, and the other 2 wires are to deliver signal to the ECM. Over here we have the IAC, which controls the ignition control, I believe. I can't remember what the IAC stands for. This is the TPS, throttle position sensor. This is now adjusted properly to 0.5 volts. It was too low, and so we raised it up to 0.5, and that seems to be much better. Over here is the map sensor that gives the pressure of the outside world to the ECM. And over here we have this is newly installed this weekend. This is the oil pressure sensor switch. Okay, this is the oil pressure that goes to the helm. These 3 toggles control the power that goes to the fuel pumps. When the engine off, S and P are connected, have continuity. So when you crank the engine, when it goes into starting mode, S will deliver to the pump P power to energize the pumps. And then when the engine's starting, the ignition will then have continuity between the ignition and the pump. And there's a fuse here that goes to the pump. Okay, so here we have our very expensive OBD1 code reader, and here it is, highly engineered, just a piece of wire. What we'll have is it will be placed right here on the back deck. This is not scrap metal. Do not remove this wire from the boat. It's very important to read the codes. And place it into the ALD reader. The ALD reader is a serial port. It's a 12-port connector, but there's only 3 active pins. Okay, so the A, B, you have to cross A and B, and A and B are in the back of the connector on the far side. So you insert this wire into A and B, and that's the diagnostics to read the OBD1 codes. For example, here's a diagram of that connector, and so A and B are on the far side of the wall, E is the signal code, okay? So now we're going to go to the helm and read what codes are right now in the ECM computer. Okay, so to read the OBM1 code, turn the engine on. You don't crank the engine, you just turn the engine on. So for example, 1 notch north of neutral, turn the key, engage the micro commander so it gets its attention. Okay, now this yellow light is new. It's the check engine light. When A and B are crossed, this light will flash. And the idea is you count the flashes. Normal flashes should be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And that sequence will repeat. So 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 2. Now if there's any other codes in the system, they will now be displayed, but there's no other codes in the system, so that 1, 2 sequence will just keep repeating itself. Okay. Let's make sure you remove the high-tech AB connector here on the ALD serial port, and please place it back where you found it, which will be right here in this chase of the engine compartment. So again, that's not scrap metal. It's very important to keep that on the boat. Okay, so with the Galaxy tablet and with the ALD Droid Bluetooth, we have this list of OBD1 codes here. And what I've usually find out is the most common code you'll see is this O2 sensor, rich or lean mechanism here is turned on. So occasionally we've had those on. We don't know why. Again, if the oxygen sensor is faulty, we have a spare in the boat. Again, here's the oxygen sensor. Now, once you do work on the engine, these codes will not be cleared unless you turn off power to the engine. So not power to the engine, but power to the ECM. And to do that, the easiest way to do that, there's a fuse down here at the battery. So I'm going to take the camera and I'm going to turn it around and show you the fuse that this is attached to. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. So the best way to disconnect power from the ECM is to pop off this black cap and pull out that green fuse. Okay, so this is fused to the ECM to protect it, but it's also an easy way to disconnect power from the ECM to clear the codes. Now this is the Galaxy tablet that runs the ALD Droid application. The power button's on the top. There's a charger for it over here. The charger goes in the bottom, and it's just an ordinary charge you put in the wall. That's to keep the tablet powered. Typically you don't need that when you want to monitor the engine, of course, unless the battery level is low. Now one of the strange things about this ALD Droid application, you have to look at it this way. It doesn't work any other way. It has to be mounted vertically. It's weird. It is what it is. Oh shoot, looks like the battery level is critically low. Darn it, I must have left it on last night. Okay, I have to connect this to the charger. Stop. We've gone on the port side of the engine because I needed to charge up the Galaxy tablet. There's a power indicator here. It should be all green. Apparently it wasn't. Must have left it on last night. There is a pin. That's the only way it's protected. And I've distributed the pin to everyone on the mailing list. I don't want non-boaters. I don't want kiddies using this, so I'm going to enter the pin. You all know what it is. Okay, so here's the Galaxy tablet. So, not a fan of the Galaxy, but it is what it is. I've kind of organized things in a reasonable way. The settings that are on top, the stuff that you generally want to use here. We got a navigation device. It works on Lake Powell. Like $15 yearly subscription to that one. There's another free Lake Powell navigation device. Windy is a very useful application to tell us what to expect for winds. Google Maps, if you prefer that. There's a camera, there's a photo gallery, there's Chrome for a web browser. And these are the ALD Droid application that we run to look at the engine system parameters. And this is a freebie ALD scan that you can also run, which I'm not really a big fan of. At the bottom here, we have a WhatsApp application, which is the same application that is on the Goosebumps chat group. Here we have a mail application where you can actually accumulate files from the ALD Droid and send them through mail. This is the mailing. So you can, this is a complete mailing. It's all set up to mail. This is a telephone number. You can do Zoom on this thing also, and I generally don't use the stuff on the bottom. So here on the port side, the ALD port is located here. And again, there's this high-tech device to read the ALD codes, and it's going to be placed right here. Please don't throw that out. Always keep that in the boat. Again, A and B on their far side, on the bottom, A and B, and the signal pin, I believe, was E in that document. Okay, so here we have the port engine. Again, set up same way. We have the oil pressure sensor switch, and that was recommended by the inspector. What that will do, if the oil pressure is low, it'll automatically shut off the fuel pumps. That's the safety way to do things. We have the heating, the temperature sensor here. Okay, that's the oil pressure sensor switch. We have the temperature sensor here. This is a shorter tube. We need to go back to a shorter tube on the other one. We haven't done that yet. Again, we have the fuel filter, the lift pump, and the high pressure pump, all in parallel with the oil pressure sensor switch. And here the O2 sensor is located on this side, again mounted horizontally. And the ECM is mounted here. Again, power to the ECM to clear the codes is near the battery of the boat. Flip it around, and it's going to be right here, if you can see that. Okay, this is the ALD Bluetooth device. It talks to the Galaxy tablet via Bluetooth. And sometime that setting may or may not be on. To turn on the Bluetooth, you go to settings. Okay, here's your Bluetooth. To turn it on or turn it off. Okay, so if you want to see what's on, it says it's already paired to the HC05, which is the Bluetooth device. There is a password in here in case it gets out of whack. It's 1234. But generally, I've never had entered that password except for the very first time. This is your Wi-Fi. If you have a hotspot on your telephone, you can. Okay, the Galaxy tablet does not have a SIM card, so if you're out in the lake, you're not going to have Wi-Fi unless you generate your own hotspot. When you generate your hotspot, T-Mobile is not going to work. You usually need AT&T or Verizon. So to generate a hotspot on your phone, you go to settings, personal hotspot. So you just turn that on, and then you should have Wi-Fi here, active up here. So there's my Wi-Fi device. That's Ron's. That's not the one I want. I want. Where's Ron's iPhone? Ron's iPhone connected. So now. So I'm connected to Ronster's iPhone, my hotspot. So now I can use WhatsApp, I can use mail, I can use FreeTone. You have a full capability of internet connectability at this point. And when you accumulate ALD files, you can just use the ALD application and mail this to me or Bob or Chris or Norm even up at Affordable Fuel Injections. And yeah, the good part about this is that you can also use the WhatsApp application here. Okay, so we have the Galaxy tablet here, and there's a WhatsApp application of the Goosebumps chat group, and you can add multiple other chat groups if you want to talk to somebody personally. But here's the Goosebumps chat group on the Wi-Fi with the Wi-Fi with the hotspot, and I'm going to send it a message from my telephone, which does have a SIM card, and testing. Okay. So, okay, there's testing for me. Okay, so that seems to work well. So if you need to communicate with the group, again, you can use the WhatsApp application on the tablet as long as you have a hotspot on the lake. Okay, stop that. Back to the boat engine. So here we have the ALD Bluetooth adapter. Again, there's a 12-pin connector here. There's a 16-pin connector that's in this box. Okay, everything will be stored in this hairdryer box. Yes, well disguised as a hairdryer. It's not a hairdryer, it's an engineering tool. So look for that. It will be someplace on the boat when you get here. And also, will these manuals also be on the boat? The ALD Bluetooth adapter manual and information about what you'll actually be looking at on the ALD application. Okay, so here we have the Bluetooth device. On the port engine is a very convenient wall socket you can plug it into. Okay, the power light will come on. On the port engine, you plug the 12-pin connector. It's not supposed to be tangled like this. 12-pin connector. It will only fit one way into the ALD connector port. You see these pins, they only fit one way. So now we're connected to the ALD port and the ECM. Okay, at this point, now you'll have two power lights indicating the Bluetooth is on, and these 4 pins need to be up for the ALD application. For the ALD scan, it's different. You have to flip these switches in a different way, so just don't touch these switches. So on the Galaxy tablet, you can pull up the ALD Droid device. ALD.
Hold on. Go.
So we have the ALD application. The knock sensor. If you don't have a knock sensor on the boat, ignore that. Coolant temperature. Again, we'll tell you the temperature of the water of the engine. The map sensors. The O2 sensor. This sensor is not used actually. We only have one O2 sensor. When it's in closed loop, what will happen is this O2 sensor will go from 900 down to 10 or 100 and oscillate up and down. That means the engine's self-tuning itself, and then it's in closed loop, and then you're good to go. Okay, the IAC position, I've adjusted it. It should be around 0, maybe 6 on the starboard engine. When it's in idle, it should be 0. If it's not 0, something's wrong. We need to tune it up again. The engine speed tells you the RPM, and the throttle position sensor should be around 0.5 to 0.6. If it's not, we need to know that. Okay, so to look at real-time data, we have this nice GUI layout, but to look at all the data, go up to these 3 dots here, and then you can go to real-time data, and the real-time data will give you, well, the vehicle speed comes from the Galaxy tablet, by the way. It'll tell you the RPM, all the information about the engine that's running that you saw on the GUI, including the temperature, and will also tell you malfunction codes. And so you can go through these codes to see if there's any errors. It will say the word error. Now the most important thing here is loop status. Ignore idle, closed loop. That's not important. Loop status. Right now the engine is in open loop. It's not actually started. So when the engine is warmed up and that O2's number is bouncing up and down between 900 and 100, this will go into closed loop. That means you're good to go. The RPMs will come down, and that process, depending on how warm the engine is around 2 to 3 minutes, maybe as long as 5 minutes when the engine hasn't run for a while. So you really don't want to go under start up until you're in the closed loop status. And you'll know that when the RPMs are down and the O2 sensors oscillating in the right direction. But I think you'll get a feel of it when the RPMs are down. Otherwise, your RPMs will be about 900, but you want to wait till they get down to 700. Okay, so to go back to the other screen, the GUI screen, there's the back arrow key. Okay, now to record data, you can do start data logging, okay? And that will start accumulating the data into the CD-ROM here, the one of the discs here. You can look at what logs you have acquired. So here we acquired some logs from yesterday, and go back here. And so we can also, let's see, manage data logs. So to send a file, so if I want to send a file, click on the file. I can email that using Blue Mail to Mueller Schoen. There we go. And because of my hotspot's on, I can send it. Simple as that. So now I have a CSV file, it's a comma separated value file, and you can send that to people. I just got the message. Okay, so you can send that to Bob, me, Chris, or Norm. So to go back again, here's the back arrow key, and again the 3 dots indicate things that you can do. If you're not getting numbers on this sensor, if everything's running, everything's connected, the simplest thing to do is disconnect from the ECU, go back to the 3 dots, and then connect to the ECU. That's sometimes necessary if things get out of sequence. I'm not sure why that is. That usually solves the problem immediately. Again, it has to be mounted vertically. If you mount it horizontally, it will not work. I'm not sure why. It's just weird. So make sure you have it mounted vertically and you're good to go. Okay, so that's the end of the tutorial on what we have done and all the tools that we have to manage the engines this year. Okay, hopefully we get this thing on the lake. Take care, everybody. We're working really hard out here. Bye now.